Afternoon, Mike.
Hi, good afternoon.
Just been listening to the Boris Johnson bloody speech.
Oh, right, okay.
I've got a clue.
I'm just looking to see how many are signed in and whether we're ready to start.
Afternoon, John.
Hello, Adam. How are you?
Not so bad. I was saying to Mike, we've just been hearing about the just listening to the update on the coronavirus.
I think we'll have to wait till later on to get a clear view, because I think it's always difficult to understand it when he's in Parliament.
Yeah.
So I think his briefing later on will be helpful, hopefully.
In theory.
Yeah.
He's doing something at 8 o'clock tonight, isn't he? This evening? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn my camera off.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye, Adam.
Okay, do you think we should start? It looks as if we've got about 29, 30 people on this call. So unless somebody tells me otherwise, I think I'm going to start. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the annual members meeting. We should have about 30 plus people on this call. That's how many have registered for the Teams link to listen to this presentation. So welcome to all of you. This is going to be quite tricky to manage. So could I just ask you to leave your microphones on mute? Sorry, I'm getting some feedback already. So leave your microphones on mute. Cameras should be turned off, apart from the board members or those who are going to be speaking. And if that causes us a problem, then we might have to ask some of them to turn the cameras off as well. So at least you can see at the bottom of your screen, hopefully, some of the faces that are talking to you. Because of the logistics of so many people on Teams, we've asked for questions to be submitted prior to this meeting, and we'll cover those towards the end. I think we've only received one. But if you do have any questions as you listen to the presentation, can I ask you to note them on the meeting chat, and we will pick those up and we will take them away and we will respond to them in writing after the meeting. It probably is going to be not possible to deal with them at the course of this meeting because of the numbers involved, but we will respond to them, and it will be helpful to me if you can record them in the meeting chat, and we'll make sure we respond. If you can't have access or you don't have access to meeting chat, if you just send us the question, we'll make sure that it's added to the list and we'll respond accordingly. This meeting is being recorded, so the fact that you're on this call is enough for us to assume that you're giving permission for us to record this conversation and this meeting, and this recording will be shared publicly later on. So that's the housekeeping. Can we have the next slide, please? So what we're going to cover today, this report is for the period the 1st of April 2019 to the 31st of March 2020. So that is the financial year, and that is the period that we're going to be referring to during the course of this presentation. You should have already received a summary of the annual report, and that's been previously circulated to all of those who registered with them for the meeting. So you should all hopefully have access to that report. And the annual report can also be accessed on our Trust website. So the programme for this meeting is we're going to talk a little bit about, share with you who our board is, the membership of the the Council of Governors and a Governor update. Executive directors are going to give their reports around our strategy, our performance, our quality account, And then importantly, the finances towards the end of that as well. So you'll hear how we've managed the money. And then we're going to finish off with a story from one of our service users. So that's how we're going to conduct the meeting, and they're the topics that we're going to cover. So can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Thank you. So who are the board? Well, the board consists of a number of executive directors and non-executive directors. The executive directors at the top of your screen there are Mike Hunter, Beverly Murphy, Philip Easthope, David Walsh and Caroline Parry. And a number of non-executive directors at the bottom, Heather Smith, Sandy Keane, Anne Stanley, Richard Mills and Professor Brendan Stone, who is an associate non-exec director. And then heading up the organisation is Jan Ditheridge as chief executive, and me as chair. Now, it is worth saying that the vast majority of the executive directors and Jan and myself were not around for the period that we're reporting. So there have been a number of changes in the executive director team and a number of new people joining the organisation since March 2020. So it's just worth noting that. Can we have the next slide, please? So, membership and governor update. So can we have the next slide, please? So the foundation trusts have a council of members, and they also have a membership, and we have over 12,000 members of our organisation who are part of that. And our membership strategy is we want to have a community presence, we want to be working in partnership with other trusts, we want to target membership groups, and we want to, and we hold and will want to hold membership events. Now, some of those have been curtailed, obviously, because of COVID, and we do quite a number of those events engaging with the public in partnership with other organisations in Sheffield, predominantly Sheffield Teaching Hospitals. And we feel that that's a much better way of doing this because it doesn't confuse the public in terms of which organisation they're talking to. And we try to do this in partnership so that we can all effectively engage with public and with our membership. Next slide, please. So the Council of Governors, the construction of the council is representative of the people of Sheffield and how Sheffield is made up. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but we have a public constituency, we have a stakeholder constituency, a staff constituency, and then importantly a service user and carer constituency. And you can see from that slide the number of people who represent each of those areas and how many people sit on the Council of Governors. Next slide, please. So we've had a number of elections during the course of the year, and we have had 17 people elected during 2019 and 20, 12 new to the council, so 12 brand new council members. Unfortunately, 3 of those had to stand down because of personal reasons within the first 2 or 3 months of their appointment, and we have had 5 reappointments. The council plays a really important role in, they have some statutory functions. So, for example, they appoint the chair. They also hold the non-executive directors individually and collectively accountable for the performance of the board. And they also have a duty to support the appointment of the chief executive officer. So they have a number of statutory functions, but importantly, they're a really good conduit for us to engage as an organisation with the people that we serve, users and carers of our services, and also the people of Sheffield. So they play a really important role. I'm now going to hand over to Terry Proudfoot, who is the lead governor, and Terry is going to just share with you some thoughts about her year as lead governor. Terry, over to you.
Hello everyone. I've only been lead governor since January, but I'll give a sort of update on what's been going on over the last year. Governors have had quite a busy year. we've undertaken various statutory duties, like receiving the annual report and appointing the auditors for the trust, which had to be done last autumn. And we were preparing to interview for a new chair and an audit chair when COVID struck. The recruitment of the audit chair is resuming later this month, and the chair appointment process is set to be restarted early next year, so that all of the governors and staff can engage face to face, because it's such an important appointment. It's not something that's easy to do virtually or even socially distanced, because you just can't get enough people there for the presentations. Governors were also involved in the recruitment of the new chief executive last autumn, both at the presentations and in smaller groups. And I sat on the interview panel with other panel members like the chair and the vice chair. Governors have also interrogated the issues around the recent CQC inspection and outcome. There were a number of things that have been consistently raised by governors over the last year, and have considered the underlying causes. And we've also sought to be as involved as we can be during this crisis caused by COVID, examining and questioning the Trust's response and obviously what else is going on, including the CQC response. We have also been involved in some member recruitment in the last year. I know I went to, I think it was last September, we held some at Firth Park Academy, I believe. But obviously that is something that at the moment we just can't do. There is development work with the Council of Governors, which was initiated last autumn, following discussion with a working group of governors and agreement by the Council. But this has been on hold again due to the pandemic. However, it is set to resume, all being well, and link in with the work on overall governance of the organisation. Governors are extremely keen to help this organisation improve and be where it should be for the people of Sheffield. I think I've covered most of the points there.
Okay, thank you, Terry, and thanks for that. Clearly you've had a busy year. I'm now going to hand over to the executive directors to give a number of reports, and we're going to start off with our Chief Executive, Jan Ditheridge. Jan.
Thank you, Mike. I'm just going to do a whistle-stop tour of last year, picking out some of the important elements. But before I do that, I just wanted to remind and refresh everybody's memory as to the wide range of services that we provide for the people of Sheffield and beyond. And we mainly work with people who are very vulnerable, either at a moment in time or throughout their whole lives, and almost always have either one or more long-term conditions. So we often work with people over a very long period of time, sometimes quite intensively, and sometimes just for short periods of time to support them to live the lives they want to lead. And to remind us, every organisation has a statement about where they want to go, and that should always be on the horizon. How we're going to steer that work through a set of strategic aims, and agree as an organisation, so the people who work within the organisation and our partners, on a set of values that we can hold fast when things get tough. So we are in the process at the moment of refreshing and rethinking, are these still the right aims? Is this the right vision to take us over the next 5 to 10 years? But looking back, our vision to improve mental, physical and social well-being of people in our communities was very much at the heart of what we were doing. Whether it was delivery or transforming care, we absolutely endeavoured to deliver outstanding care, create a great place to work, and continually improve the use of all our resources. And that's been underpinned by our values, which are most dear to us, treating each other and our service users and carers and the public with compassion and respect, holding ourselves to account for the work that we do and deliver, working in partnership across Sheffield and beyond to deliver high quality services, and to be ambitious and, most importantly, fair in everything that we do. So over 19 and 20, our strategic priorities related to quality and safety, people, our future services, and delivering value for money. Okay. Just a little picture to show you a year at a glance, and like Terry, all of our staff have been really busy. 85,000 plus service users supported in many different ways, whether that's, very few of our service users are actually treated in a hospital bed, vast majority in their own homes or in the community. We have meetings, listening into action, very, very important to us to make sure that we are engaging, involving and really listening to our staff about what's important and what will make things different for them. A wide range of things that we do to make sure that we deliver high quality patient care. Okay. So how did we get on last year? So 1920. I'll start with our national targets. So we did actually do quite well. There's not many national targets that are measured and published for mental health services. We have a range of other targets for our aspiration, but the main ones are early intervention, IAPT, or improving access to psychological therapies, and diagnosis for dementia. Our access for early intervention and IAPT, or improving access to psychological therapies, we achieved. And our diagnosis of dementia we achieved, and we are considered to be a high performer locally and in the country. In terms of quality, although we didn't receive our inspection report for our CQC review until April, we were actually reviewed between probably the end of November and February. So it did land in last year, and many of you will know that sadly we attracted an inadequate overall rating, which we have been working very, very hard to turn around. But there are pockets and certainly services where people are still doing great things and attracting high accolades, and we've worked hard in a number of areas to achieve accreditation with the Royal College of Psychiatrists. The most recent one was our liaison services that achieved that. We've worked hard on our transformation and future services. You'll hear a little bit more about primary and community mental health transformation programme at the end of this session from Fiona. And we're embarking on a specialist community forensic service that we will support, lead on behalf of South Yorkshire. Already talked a little bit about listening into action, but some other examples of where we have changed and developed. We have a number of clinical roles that have changed and developed within our nursing fraternity and within our support workers, groups of workers, to create career pathways. As somebody that is quite new into the organisation, I was really pleased to see the wide range of educational and career opportunities that we offer, and we must optimise those in the future to attract more people to our organisation. And a significant, and this was pre-COVID, there was a significant focus on health and well-being of our staff, whether that was psychological or physical well-being. And of course, through COVID, that stepped up quite significantly. And you'll hear Phil tell you later that we did achieve all our financial objectives, which is incredibly helpful if we are to sustain and maintain our services. Next slide, please. And just finally, I just wanted to make reference to our coronavirus response. It actually hit us at in March, so at the very end of this period that we're talking about. You will all know that it hit us in March. March the 23rd is when we went into lockdown, and today is a very pertinent day, obviously, because the Prime Minister will be making statements about what we might be doing over the next few weeks. All of you will have been impacted and have vivid memories of what it meant for you. For our staff, everybody worked really hard through that period, and even where we weren't able to see people face to face because it wouldn't have been safe for them, we worked hard to turn face to face into technological solutions like the very one that we're experiencing now, to support those very vulnerable people that I was talking about through a very, very challenging time. And we managed to mobilise kits, whether that was PPE, so protection, infection control protection, through to digital kit, technology, cameras, so staff and service users could talk to each other and staff could talk to each other. And people were very kind to us in giving us all sorts of things to just get staff through what became very, very difficult days, some days where they were quite isolated and had to carry on with their duties. So there is no doubt that while we had the start to a challenging year with our CQC report, there is no doubt to me that COVID response demonstrated to me how exemplary our staff are, and we can, I am sure, turn that inadequate rating around because of what I saw at the very least through COVID. So I'm going to stop there and hand over to Mike Hunter, who's going to talk about our quality account.
Thank you, Jan. Can I have the next slide, please? So there were three main quality objectives in our quality account for last year, and I'll say a little bit about each of them and where we made progress, and also obviously acknowledging that we got the CQC report that we got, which points out many areas of improvement that need to be made, and Jan has mentioned the incredibly hard work and energy and enthusiasm that's going into that. Okay, so the first of the three is about improving access. We were able to get more care coordinators into our community mental health teams in order that people could have smaller caseloads and hence be able to spend more therapeutic time with service users in the year. Jan mentioned early intervention and improving access to psychological therapies and our diagnostic rates in memory clinics. I won't go over that again. I do want to acknowledge that we didn't make the progress that we wanted to make against the waiting list for our emotional wellbeing service, and that remains too long. We have acted now to recruit the right people into the right roles who are dealing with this, and we're working to bring this under control quickly now. The second objective is about improving experience, involvement and engagement. We've got more teams accredited as delivering according to national standards. Jan mentioned liaison. I'll mention rehab, our inpatient rehab team at Forest Close, which is one of only a handful of rehab teams in the country that's accredited to delivering care against national standards. We also relaunched our carer strategy and our carer engagement group, which I think is best described as thriving. It's going really well. Obviously, looking forward, and I started by saying this as well, there's an awful lot of work going on in the Trust at the minute to improve lots of things. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that that work has service user involvement and carer involvement running right through the heart of it. The third objective in our quality account is about improving outcomes. And I'm going to particularly focus here on physical health outcomes, because that had been a particular area of challenge. So in our early intervention service, our compliance with achieving physical health checks at the required level went from being around 30% at the beginning of the year to more than 80% at the end. So that team made great progress. Also, towards the end of the year, we started doing a daily huddle for all of our inpatient wards, bringing the ward leaders together with our senior nursing leaders to ensure that we were complying with all of the essential physical health monitoring that you need to do on inpatient wards. And very quickly, that took us to close to 100% compliance with all of the physical health checks that need to be done on wards. So overall, some definite areas of significant progress. but acknowledging more to do. I just want to say how much energy and enthusiasm there is to get that done. And I'll hand over to my Finance Director colleague, Filippisto.
Philip, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I was having a problem with mute there. It was going to happen to somebody and it happened to be me. So apologies, everybody. Welcome. Can I take the next slide, please? So overall, as Jan indicated earlier, we managed to achieve our financial objectives for 1920. So it was a great achievement, and thank you to everybody for their part in that. I'll just go that down into some of the detail briefly. Our financial risk rating is 1, which is the lowest level of rating, which is a measure of our financial sustainability and efficiency going forward. So it's a good achievement. Our surplus for the year was £3.3 million operating surplus. And as is always, we had some efficiency savings to make in the year, and staff were fantastic in achieving £3.2 million with efficiency savings across the trust. I'll highlight as well on the slide our cash balance of £51 million, which is a lot of money to be holding. And of course, why do we achieve surpluses and why do we have cash balances? It's so we can invest in the quality of our estate and our assets to provide the right environment for staff to work in and to provide care in, and also to improve other assets like technology, etc. So that's key for our plans going forward and how we improve our services. And I'd also like to highlight that last year we spent £2.8 million on capital. Next slide, please. So what did our auditors say? So they looked at our accounts, and they have to look at our financial statements and give 2 opinions. 1, does it reflect a true and fair view? And secondly, an opinion on the value for money. So they did some significant amount of testing, and from our financial statements, they were able to give what is deemed a clean opinion. There were no unadjusted differences or any material concerns. So that's good news. From a value for money perspective, as a result of the findings from the CQC inadequate rating, this resulted in a qualified adverse value for money conclusion being issued purely as a result of that finding. I'll hand you over to Mike now for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Okay, we've only had 1 question that has been submitted prior to the meeting, and I'll just read that question out. It's, could the board advise on how the trust is supporting people living in nursing homes, CHC funded by Sheffield Health and Social Care Trust, across the city to access their local community, families, etc., in line with government legislation? And I think, Beverly, are you able to respond to that question?
I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm having some
technical. We can see you now as well, Beverly.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
We can't hear
So
you.
I think this. I'm not on mute.
Okay, try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. So I think it's a really important question, isn't it? Because we've got communities of people that are in residential nursing care with us, and it's really important that people stay connected with the people that they love, with their communities. But there's two answers to the question, really. The first answer is pre-COVID. So before COVID hit, we, of course, used a minibus. We would take people out to local events in the community, or to go shopping, or to go to art galleries, and so on, or day trips, in fact. We also had an activity coordinator that would schedule events outside of the residential home itself. And also calls with family members via video. And we also
really encouraged families to come into the unit and to visit and to be part of the life of the unit itself. And we also access third sector activities in the community, such as the Dementia Cafe, which does dance, cafe and dance for the residents of the homes. However, since COVID hit, the picture has been quite different, and people will understand the reasons for that. So we have had to put restrictions in line with national restrictions on people coming into residential home settings. So families can visit, but that's in the garden, and we actually have people visit and say hello to their loved ones through the window, because then we can maintain contact and facilitate that contact, but be COVID safe. And we also still use video conferencing and telephones where at all possible. But it has to be said that post-COVID, the opportunities are quite different compared to pre-COVID. And in fact, we were more recently about to lift some of the visiting restrictions we've put in place. But of course, we all recognise that the national picture has changed, and we've had to adapt to that locally too. So, and I'm happy for anybody to contact me should they want to ask any more specific questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Beverly. I haven't seen any more questions being raised on meeting chat, so you still have an opportunity before we close. If you want to post anything on meeting chat, if anybody wants to ask a further question, as I said at the beginning, we will take those away and we'll respond in writing. But at the moment, there's no further questions. Thank you to the directors for those presentations and for Terry. Clearly, you've heard that there are still some quite significant challenges for the organisation to address over this year and beyond. And rest assured, we are all focused on returning this organisation to where it should rightly be and improving on those issues that CQC highlighted. But what we just wanted to do was, it's very easy to forget some of the really good, innovative work that is going on across this organisation. And we wanted to just share with you one good example of that. And I know the board and the executive team are out and about in the organisation talking to staff and hearing some of these really good examples of what's going on. And we wanted to finish today by asking one of those teams to just do a presentation to try and bring some of this to life. Sometimes these meetings, it's very dry, but we wanted to try and just give you some detail about a new and innovative service called the Primary Care and Mental Health Transformation Programme. And this is one of 12 national test programme sites across the country, and it's an excellent example of partnership working across the trust, primary care and the voluntary sector. And I'm going to ask Rachel, who is a clinical psychologist and is director of the programme, to share a bit more detail with you. So over to you, Rachel. Sorry, Fiona.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mike, and hello, everybody. Yes, I have been asked to tell you a bit about one of our new services, the Primary and Community Mental Health Service, which actually started, and we saw our first service users during the COVID lockdown. So as Mike has already mentioned, this is a service that we as a trust are delivering in partnership with GPs and the voluntary sector in Sheffield. And we are supporting those people whose needs are more complex than IAPT. So these are people who wouldn't normally benefit from the improving access to psychological services offer that we provide in the trust, but who are not in crisis. So it's those people that are that fall in the middle and who may not yet need our single point of access service, but need more than IAPT. So the position for us as one of the 12 early implementer sites, just going back to last July, when we heard that we had been awarded money to set this service up, was that we didn't have an existing primary care mental health service with specialist workers wrapping round our general practices in the city to support people with more complex needs. So we had to create those job descriptions, recruit into posts, including some new roles. So people from our voluntary sector partners providing community connector roles, helping people to connect to employment advice, benefit advice and activities in their communities, in addition to supporting people's psychological needs and physical well-being. So that's where we were before COVID hit. And actually we had some early feedback back in December that maybe we were lagging behind a little bit. However, we had really by then recruited some new members of our clinical team. And what we were able to do with great support from HR and IT, we were really able to speed up our recruitment. So we did a lot of that online. We set up an induction program online. And that meant that the first 10 of our nurses, our psychologists, and our social community connectors actually started seeing people for the first time in June. Within the first 11 weeks of our service, we have seen over 400 people, and about 21% of those people come from Black and minority ethnic communities in Sheffield, Black Asian minority ethnic communities in Sheffield. So in fact, compared to some of the other early implementer sites where we've kind of caught up and moved ahead a little bit. Next slide, please. So this is just a picture of our team. Actually, most of the work, virtually all the work that we've done since we started online using one of the platforms that enables people to deliver assessment and treatment online or by phone. But this was a photograph taken at one of the practices that we're supporting. And we have Alex, one of our nurses, Rebecca in the front, one of our community connectors, and our operational manager, Serena, on the left, along with one of the GPs at the Porterbrook practice. And I just wanted to end with a quote, really, from one of our service users who was seen by one of our psychologists in the team during the first 12 weeks of the service. I was very nervous about being seen by someone about my difficulties. In the past, I've found it really difficult to trust people, and I don't really like getting out of the house. I thought it would be really strange being seen by you over the phone. But in fact, I found it easier. You have a very kind voice, and I was able to focus on that, and I found it easier to trust you. And I just wanted to give you a flavour of some of the feedback that we've had really during these kind of strange COVID times with us working in new ways. And the creativity, and I really wanted to sort of thank our team for their creativity and effort in getting on board with new ways of working at this time. Obviously, we are linking up with some of our other trust teams, particularly single point of access, and our recovery teams, which have already been mentioned. But this was just one of our stories about getting a new service off the ground and adding to what we are able to offer people in Sheffield during this period that's been so difficult for us all. Thank you, and back to you, Mike.
That's really encouraging. Thank you, Fiona. And clearly the team have done a sterling job in catching up with the other early implementer sites. Can I just ask, are you sharing experience across those sites? So are other people learning from us and we're learning from them?
Yes, so we are part of a number of networks. So we are sharing. We are involved in sharing our learning nationally, and some of the regional team sit on our programme board, and also locally. Yes, so we are sharing with the region, the ICS. And nationally, and that's something that we're asked to do. There have been a number of conferences and events. Thanks for the prompt, actually. There have been a number of conferences and events that, again, normally would have required people to go to meetings in other parts of the country, but we've been able to do that online using Teams during this period.
That's really good, and it's good that you've got 21% of your people at service from the Black and Asian minority ethnic groups. That's really important, and we know that we're all trying to focus on that at the moment, so that's really encouraging. Okay, so I'm not sure whether anybody else wants to ask anything of Fiona, and whether that's going to be possible, or whether we just move on. Has anybody got any burning? No. Okay. Again, it's quite difficult with so many people, but thank you for that. It's really good to listen to how some of these services are being put into practice, and thank the staff for all the hard work that they've done, and we wish you well, obviously, in the future, and continuing to grow the programme and improve on the programme. So well done, excellent. Thank you. Sorry, somebody has put their hand up. Barney? Shall we take your question? Go on.
I'd just like to point out that Adam had a question just after 2 o'clock on the meeting chat. Adam has a question.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. I thought that was, yeah. Okay. Adam?
Hi, Mike. Do you want to ask me a question?
Yeah. Is this a question of Fiona of the presentation or something else? Because we said we'd take those questions.
It was a general question anyway.
Okay, go on then, and we see where we get to.
It's good that we've got all the carers groups in it, but how are we as a trust looking after the young carers of patients with a mental health issue? Okay, is that looking after young carers during the COVID crisis? And with family who are actually our service users as well. Okay. Are any of the directors able to respond to that, Beverly or Mike?
Hi, Mike. Happy to.
I can. Oh,
okay.
Sorry, Beverly. I was just going to say thanks, Adam. Yeah, it's really, really important. We work very closely with Sheffield Young Carers on our carers strategy and on our plans to support carers. Sarah Gowan, who is the head of Sheffield Young Carers, the leader of Sheffield Young Carers, is on our carers strategy group, and is also a member of our Getting Back to Good programme board. So all of the work that we're doing has got both carers and supporting young carers running through the middle of it, and we're really well connected in with the relevant local organisation to be able to do that. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, I'm going to try and round this off now. So we haven't had any further questions, so there won't be anything. You've heard the response that was asked. We've given to Adam. So further regarding questions. So I just want to round off and close the meeting by saying I hope that you found the meeting and the presentations informative. If you do require for information, the annual report is on the website, and you have, I think, the report summary as well. Just one last thing is to thank you for joining us, and hopefully it's a meeting Then thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.